Hello and welcome, I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching NewsX World. Let's first take a look at our top stories. Tensions between President Trump and Elon Musk have reached breaking point after Musk bashed Trump's big beautiful bill. Musk suggests without evidence that the president appears in unreleased files linked to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Trump says the Tesla boss went crazy. Hamas have signalled they are ready to enter into new, serious peace talks for a permanent ceasefire with Israel. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says that Israel has activated some clans in Gaza who are opposed to Hamas. Israel has launched strikes in Beirut's southern suburbs, saying it was targeting Hezbollah's drone production. The attack on Thursday night comes on the eve of al-Adha and followed evacuation warnings for several buildings, despite a ceasefire that has been in place for 6 months. Russia has launched drones and ballistic missiles at multiple targets in Ukraine, with Kyiv officials saying at least 4 people have been killed as several residential areas of the capital have been hit. Deaths have also been reported in the Chernihiv region after Putin vowed to respond to Ukraine's Operation Spider's Web drone assault. President Donald Trump says he will visit China after speaking to their leader Xi Jinping over the phone. The White House confirmed the two had a very good talk amid heightened tensions after Trump launched a trade war and a series of reciprocal tariffs. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has announced that the US will impose sanctions on 4 judges at the International Criminal Court for illegitimate targeting of Israel and the US. Benjamin Netanyahu has thanked the Trump administration for the move. The judge presiding over Sean Diddy Combs' criminal trial has threatened to ban the music mogul from the courtroom for interacting with members of the jury. Judge Aaron Subramanian called the actions absolutely unacceptable after Combs nodded and pulled faces. We start this hour in North America. US President Donald Trump and Tesla boss Elon Musk's unlikely political association has exploded in a fiery fallout, with the US president threatening to strip the billionaire of his huge government contracts in revenge. This comes after Elon Musk revived the contentious conspiracy theory on the US president by connecting Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein. He claimed that classified government documents about Epstein's influential associates contain references to the Republican leader. However, Musk did not provide supporting evidence for his assertion and did not specify which files he referenced. Musk, who was Trump's biggest campaign donor to the tune of around $300 million, separately claimed the Republican would not have won the 2024 election without his support and accused him of such ingratitude. Meanwhile, in retaliation, Trump hit Musk where it hurts, threatening Musk's multi-billion-dollar government contracts, including for launching rockets and for the use of the Starlink satellite service. As a result of this crossfire that finally relented after several hours, Tesla has seen more than $100 billion wiped off the company's value. Well, this explosion in relations comes, of course, after Elon Musk has spoken negatively about Trump's big, beautiful bill. Joining us to look at all of these ramifications is Scott Faulkner, head of the Eagle Enterprises, a security firm based in Washington. Scott also joining us from Washington. Scott, this is a huge blow-up. Relations have been tense over the past few days, but what's your reaction to this X-tirade and response from Donald Trump?
What's really interesting is 4 hours ago, Trump did one of his Truth Social posts where he said, "Give me my ABBA records back." So I'm wondering if Trump's going to try to basically de-escalate, giving up sort of a bizarre thing of give me my records back. So it's a lot of people are saying this may have already reached a fever pitch, and they're both off. It's because it really is absolutely incredible that the world's richest man and the world's most powerful man, both of which have their own social platforms, have been blowing away at each other for the last 24 hours. I think Musk has posted about 300 texts on his X. So it's going to be interesting to see if this ABBA Records kind of almost tongue-in-cheek by Trump is going to be part of the de-escalation coming forward.
Yes, and Scott, you mentioned the sheer level of posts on X from Elon Musk. Donald Trump in response says that Elon Musk went crazy, but there is one big talking point from Musk's messages, and that is linking Donald Trump to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Of course, there has been conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory about who may have been involved with Epstein. Why do you think Elon Musk has chosen this route, something so provocative and so outlandish in the face of a clear alliance that has now broken down?
Because I can guarantee you, if the Biden administration had anything on Trump with Epstein, it would have been leaked during the election last year. So the question is this, again, some people are speculating that it's a kind of a 3 or 4 dimensional chess where Epstein files, especially the videos from the actual island, need to be released or should be released. And this is another way to get other people who otherwise don't want the Epstein material out to get it out. But the main thing seems to be that Trump obviously knew Epstein early on. After his first round of convictions, Trump stepped back from Epstein. So again, if there was anything real there, I guarantee you the deep state and the Biden people would have leaked it last year.
Yes, Scott, let's now look at the impacts of these spats that have been taking place online. A lot of money wiped off the Tesla valuation. We're looking at potentially up to $150 billion, well over $100 billion. Is this a big mistake from Elon Musk, or do you imagine this will rebound and bounce back to its previous valuation?
Well, again, the old adage is you don't tug on Superman's cape, and Musk might be rich, but Trump, in essence, holds all the cards. And so it's whether it's the big beautiful bill that has removal of electric vehicle incentives, whether it's dealing with the future of SpaceX and Starlink, Trump holds all the cards. So I think at some point Musk needs to understand that whatever created this meltdown needs to calm down.
Yes, Scott, and I'm glad you brought up the big beautiful bill, because this is where early disagreements started. Could you provide some context to our audience on what Elon Musk's points are against this bill that we know has already been passed through the House by just one vote?
Well, Congressmen and Senate can't stop spending, and which was supposed to be make it a reconciliation bill. One is revenue, and so that piece is clearly something that even Musk wants, which is all of the tax breaks no longer taxing tips, no longer taxing Social Security, no longer taxing overtime for first responders, plus making permanent all of the 2017 tax reforms that were done under Trump 1. So that part, but the other part, which is the spending part, is very meager, and there's actually a lot of what we'd call pork or additional spending added to the bill. And that's where Musk was really upset, because he was hoping to see some of the Doge cuts actually part of this bill to start scaling back the size of government. And this bill really doesn't have much of that in there. So that's where he started raising the issues. And even Trump said he can attack me all he wants, just don't attack the bill, because a lot of people in Washington are speculating if this bill fails, we're not going to get anything close to it in a second version of the bill. So this is the best we're going to get, even though it's a crappy bill when it comes to the spending side.
Yes, and Scott, to put a full stop on this conversation, Of course, Musk's companies have a lot of government contracts, notably Starlink and also SpaceX with the Dragon capsules. How significant would this be to the US government if this battle continues and all these contracts and all this money that has been set aside is withdrawn, or the money invested then goes to waste?
It would be crippling to the U.S. space effort, because right now, even though you have Boeing and Bezos with competing capsules and missiles or rockets, the Musk SpaceX program is still the backbone of the U.S. space program. About almost 80% of all launches in the last few years have been off of Musk's devices and rockets. So it's when you start to look at going back to the moon, going to Mars, all of this is Musk. Bezos and Boeing are also RANds. So if we have a true meltdown, I mean, not just simply rhetorical, but a reality to it, it will cripple the U.S. space program.
Yes, Scott Faulkner, you will be staying with us. And of course, here on NewsX World, we will continue to bring you all the developments from this ongoing dispute between Donald Trump and Elon Musk. But we now move to the Middle East, and in a major development in the long-awaited Israel-Hamas truce talks, Hamas's lead negotiator has said that the group is ready to enter a new round of talks aimed at sealing a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. Negotiator Khalil al-Hayya made the declaration in a speech marking the start of al-Adha festivities. Talks aimed at brokering a new ceasefire have failed to yield a breakthrough since the last truce fell apart in March. Following this, Israel in fact launched its operation in Gaza again. Meanwhile, Gaza's Civil Defense Agency has said that Israeli attacks killed at least 37 people on Thursday, as a US-backed aid group reported it had resumed operations after a one-day hiatus. Amid these reports, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the country is using armed gangs in Gaza to help fight Hamas. His admission comes after a new wave of military strikes. The statement marked the government's first public acknowledgement that it had backed the armed Palestinian groups based around powerful families. The groups stand accused by aid workers of carrying out criminal attacks and stealing aid from trucks. Well, Scott Faulkner, thank you very much for staying with us. Some big developments in the ongoing Israel-Hamas war. Let's first look at Hamas signalling that they're ready for a next round of talks. This comes after Steve Witkoff had a proposal that was accepted by Israel. Hamas had countered, but it seems that they're willing to go back to the negotiating table. Is this a move, do you think, of desperation given the current situation in the Gaza Strip?
Very much so. Again, Hamas is looking for any way to remove Israel from the Gaza Strip. I mean, they're really being pushed against the wall. I think that there's the fact that Israeli forces were able to recover 2 bodies of the dead hostages on their own. I think, again, Hamas is starting to realize that it may be only a matter of time before Israel finds either the other hostage bodies or even the other hostages. So they want to get anything that they can on the bargaining table.
Yes, and the situation, as we know, in Gaza is extremely difficult. The humanitarian crisis being reported by humanitarian groups continues. How positive is it that US-backed aid has now resumed in the enclave after that brief pause?
It's helpful. I mean, again, we know that going back to 2003, when Israel left Gaza, that literally tens of billions of dollars of aid has always been diverted to Hamas, and instead of building schools and building what could have been one of the great Mediterranean resorts, they built tunnels and built weapons and trained soldiers. So I think that the civilians in the Gaza Strip have always been deprived of really what they should have, and right now, in many cases, ironically, they may be getting more aid now than they have even before the war began, because Hamas is now not the intermediary of getting the aid. It's going directly to the people, and that's another key part to this U.S. initiative.
Scott, let's now shift our focus to an acknowledgement from Benjamin Netanyahu that Israel has been backing groups that are against Hamas, but groups that have had accusations of criminal activities in the enclave put against them. I want to get your opinion on how you think Donald Trump will receive this information, giving his staunch backing for Israel in the face of wider condemnation from world leaders.
I think the key is that the civilians who've suffered all these years under Hamas, there's probably people who finally are now feel emboldened to stand up against Hamas. And if we're going to neutralize Hamas once and for all, there's got to be a actual grassroots civilian uprising against Hamas, not just simply an Israeli invasion against Hamas. So we'll see whether these reports of basically gangster kind of activity are real or propaganda. I think, again, the key is that if we're going to ever solve the Gaza issue, we're going to have an alternative to Hamas, and maybe part of this activity by anti-Hamas insurgencies may be the glimmer of hope that we need.
Scott, to end our discussion, I do want to question the future for Gaza if there is influence from alleged armed gangs in ending this current war. Could this be a case of replacing one terrorist group with another group who may not be terrorists but could have a checkered past as well?
Well, we certainly have Libya back under Obama as an example, where Gaddafi was a terrible person, but after he fell from power, Libya became just a totally chaotic, violent place. So, we're seeing the same thing now in Syria, that, like you're saying, kind of name your poison. So the question is that, Hamas has been a horrible insurgency, terrorist organization that has killed, thousands. And so we don't want them around. But then, like you're saying, is it just like we're seeing now in Syria, like we saw in again, Libya, what is the alternative? Is there an end game that is actually going to be better for the region? And I think everybody is hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst.
Scott Faulkner, thank you ever so much for joining us for two extended discussions there. We will, of course, keep an eye on future ceasefire talks between Israel, Hamas, and the situation going on in the enclave. We stay in the region now, though, and a series of Israeli airstrikes have hit Beirut's southern suburbs. This comes after the IDF said it would target underground Hezbollah drone factories. Plumes of smoke were seen billowing from the Lebanese capital shortly after huge numbers of people had fled the area, clogging the roads with traffic. As per a Lebanese news agency, nearly a dozen strikes were launched, including two which were very violent. Following the renewed attack, Lebanon's leaders accused Israel of a flagrant ceasefire violation by launching strikes against Hezbollah in southern Beirut. Prime Minister Salam also issued a statement condemning the strikes, which came despite a November 27th ceasefire that sought to end more than a year of hostilities with the Iran-backed Hezbollah group. We head to Europe now. Russia has launched drones and ballistic missiles at multiple targets across Ukraine. As per reports, residential areas of the capital have been hit and at least 4 people have been killed in Kyiv. The head of Kyiv City Military Administration, Timur Tukashenko, has accused Russia of hitting residential areas, saying a high-rise building, the Solomyansky district of Kyiv, was damaged in the attack. The Russian missile attack on Ukraine comes days after Ukraine's security service launched a series of daring large-scale drone attacks deep inside Russia, striking airfields and hitting multiple military aircraft, including some of its prized nuclear-capable heavy bomber aircraft. Meanwhile, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un vowed to unconditionally support Russia in its war in Ukraine and said he expected Moscow to emerge victorious. Moving on now, US President Donald Trump described his first phone call with Chinese leader Xi Jinping since returning to office as very positive. He announced that both countries will conduct trade talks to address issues related to tariffs and the global supply of rare earth minerals. Trump said on his social media platform that their respective teams will meet soon at a location to be determined, and that the call lasted an hour and a half. The United States will have Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, and US Trade Representative Jameson Greer represent it in the negotiations. Trump, who began his second term in January, said Xi Jinping invited him and First Lady Melania Trump to China, and that he invited Xi to visit the United States. The Chinese Foreign Ministry confirmed that Trump initiated the call between the leaders. The ministry stated that Xi requested the removal of certain US measures against China. It also noted that Trump said the US welcomes Chinese students studying in America, despite the administration planning to revoke some student visas. Well, after that information we gave you relating to North Korea's support to Russia, the United States is raising the alarm as Russia and North Korea deepen their military ties. Washington has called for an immediate end to Pyongyang's support for Moscow's war in Ukraine. The warning comes after North Korean leader Kim Jong-un pledged unconditional support to Russia in its offensive against Ukraine. State Department spokesman Tommy Pigott said North Korea's deployment of troops to Russia and any support it receives in return from Moscow must stop immediately. Let's have a listen in.
There are countries like North Korea that have perpetrated the Russia-Ukraine war bear responsibility. We continue to be concerned about North Korea's direct involvement in the war, North Korea's military deployment to Russia, and any support provided by the Russian Federation to the DPRK in return.
Well, Kim Jong-un made the pledge during a meeting with top Russian security official Sergei Shoigu. North Korea has become a key ally for Moscow, sending troops and supplying weapons to aid Russia's offensive in the Kursk border region. Heading back to North America, US President Donald Trump and German Chancellor Friedrich Mertz have held a friendly meeting at the White House discussing Ukraine, trade and military presence. Trump referred to Mertz as a good representative of Germany and called him difficult, noting it as a compliment. He confirmed that US troops would remain in Germany and acknowledged Berlin's intention to increase defence spending. Here is what Trump had to say about defence spending.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't discussed it very much. I know that you're spending more money on defense now.
Yes.
And quite a bit more money, and that's a positive thing.
Mertz called the Nord Stream 2 pipeline from Russia to Germany a mistake and emphasised Germany's readiness to strengthen ties with the United States. Mertz also shared his thoughts on applying pressure to Russia. Let's hear what he had to say.
America is again in a very strong position to do something on this war and ending this war. So let's talk about what we can do jointly, and we are ready to do what we can. And you know that we gave support to Ukraine and that we are looking for more pressure on Russia. The European Union did. And
following his discussion with Trump at the White House, here is what Mertz had to say to reporters.
Mitbekommen, ich habe das sehr klar und sehr deutlich gesagt. Das liegt jetzt ganz besonders in der Hand der amerikanischen Regierung, in der Hand des amerikanischen Präsidenten, dazu beizutragen, dass dieser Krieg beendet wird.
Well, the two leaders plan to meet again this month at the Group of Seven summit in Canada and at a NATO meeting where defence spending remains a key topic. Well, that's all we have time for. We will continue to bring you more of the latest news updates from across the world.